Welcome, everyone. My name is Arina Ashdown. I'm a digital transformation consultant and the founder of Amplify DX. We are digital and business transformation consultancy. We're technology agnostic, independent, and all we're focused on is to drive measurable business impact through successful digital transformations. It is a known fact that there is a high percentage of digital transformations that fail. And by fail, what I mean is that program takes longer than expected. It goes over budget. It actually brings very little value to the business and causes quite a lot of operational disruption along the way. And the reason for that is because digital transformations are generally very complex initiatives to bring on any organization, because you're generally required to bring on a new technology and coordinate all the different teams to deliver the technology. You're quite often required to change your business processes and your whole operational model. You're required to change your organizational structure and job that your employees do on a daily basis. And sometimes you're even required to turn the company culture around as a part of the large transformation. So all of that requires quite a lot of decision making to steer the program in the right direction. And what I wanted to do is to make a compilation of the most common reasons of why digital transformations fail. So far, I have come up with 20. This is based on our experience doing the transformations. Well, my career started for the last 10 years. If you have any other lessons learned that are not listed here, please leave a comment and give us some feedback. And to help me convey the message, I decided to structure this episode using a technique called inverse thinking, because our brains are wired the way that when we're told to do something, we generally don't. So here is 20 ways of how to fail a digital transformation. Number 1, downplay the internal buy-in. Alignment amongst the senior leadership is definitely one of the most common reasons of why digital transformations fail. Because if you have different opinions within the business amongst your leadership, why you're doing the transformation for, how exactly you're going to change the business, what the transformation is going to bring to the business, and how it fits in your overall strategy, then bringing anyone external, all the different consultants and technology vendors, are definitely a recipe for disaster. So make sure that you have your senior leadership all on the same page, and only then you can bring the external consultants. Number 2, start with technology. Quite often business leaders are really keen to start the program going. They understand what main technology needs to be replaced, and in pursuit of exploring the art of possible, they start engaging all sorts of technology vendors. And it's all well and good if really the objective is to just really explore to see what solutions are out there in the market. But what often happens is the business leaders get really excited about certain capabilities and certain technology and jump into the procurement process quite earlier on. And that brings quite a lot of risks, because by bringing on the technology first, you bypassing the whole strategy part and discovery, which then leads to your program becoming more of a technology-driven rather than a business-driven. So in order to future-proof your investment, it's really important to start a detailed discovery earlier on to work out your strategy, to understand what capabilities are needed for your specific organization, and only then get the technology vendors involved. Because if you start with technology, so what quite often happens is that you will not be able to identify certain gaps, and then you end up with technology that doesn't meet all the important requirements, and which is then becomes one of the reasons why programs go over budget and take longer than planned. So number 2, don't start with technology. Number 3, cut corners. Inevitable part of every digital transformation is the point where you will need to make some sort of trade-off decisions. Sometimes it could be because there is a feature in the system that is actually not meeting all the requirements, and now we have a gap, and that means that we need to either find another technology or build some sort of custom solution and find the budget for that. And quite often it happens at the expense of change management and training, for example, because at the time that sounds like something less of important than us not having a certain functionality within the system. But then what that leads into the poor change management, which then causes the poor adoption, high resistance to change, and really very little value to the business eventually. Of course, we can't get away from the trade-off decisions, but what we recommend is to make sure you don't cut corners on the fundamental things like the strategy, the change management, and definitely anything to do with implementing your new target operating model and changing the processes. So don't cut corners. Number 4, buy the latest and greatest technology. Buying the latest and greatest technology may or may not be the right decision for a specific organization. But what it definitely does, it increases the risk for you over investing in the technology. So what we definitely recommend is to make sure you work out your strategy first, you do the detailed discovery, you understand what capabilities you actually need. Only then you find the right technology that meets all those requirements, because you definitely don't want to end up with I'm going to use a comparison here, a Rolls-Royce car when all you actually need it for is the Sunday trip to the church. You probably won't necessarily fail a digital transformation if you invest in the latest and greatest technology, but again, it just really increases the risk of you over-investing and not potentially getting enough return from your program. Number 5, over-rely on consultants. The success of your program will heavily depend on the team that you employ and bring together to help you deliver the program. So of course you will need certain skill set and expertise that you will just not have within your organization, which is why you will need to bring the different partners to help you. But what is also important is to make sure that you still do all the due diligence, you review all the deliverables, and you are the key decision maker in all the critical stages, and make sure that you actually drive the program in the right direction. Because sometimes there could be a conflict of interest. If we're talking, for example, about the system integrators and technology vendors, right, it's in their best interest to make sure that you buy as much technology as possible. You continue having the contract with them as long as possible, which is why I think it's really important to make sure that you're still in control and you make informed decisions based on the advice that you're given. Number 6, change your business to fit the off-the-shelf solution. In the pursuit of standardizing the business processes, make them more scalable, more consistent, bring more transparency and visibility across the business, a lot of companies opt to change their business processes and current ways of working to fit the off-the-shelf solutions and the workflows that's already pre-configured in the system, which is great aspiration to aim for. However, it's also really important that, like many things in digital transformation, it's all about the balance, and you need to make sure that you don't push changing your business processes that far to the point that it actually doesn't meet the requirements, because then what that's going to lead to is the poor system adoption and actually very little value to your business. So again, it's all about doing the groundwork, working out your strategy, understanding the requirements, and making a list of the actual capabilities that you will need. And of course, there will be a degree of where you will need to change your processes to fit the solution if you're buying an off-the-shelf solution. But also there needs to be an understanding what are those critical processes and the ways of working that literally mean make or break for the business. And those specific things, you should definitely explore ways to mold the system the way that it actually works for your business. It's all about the balance, but definitely we do not recommend to push the business too far to the point that you actually change your whole business to fit the off-the-shelf solution. Number 7, over-customize the off-the-shelf solution. This is another side of the spectrum where organizations buy an off-the-shelf technology and then have very little flexibility into changing their ways of working and changing their processes to actually fit the solution, which then leads to them having a very over-customized technology, which then becomes very costly to maintain going forward, and actually it even loses the value of what it was made to do. So again, it's all about striking the balance between how much you change your business for technology versus how much you change the technology for the business. But definitely buying an off-the-shelf solution and over-customizing it and really not changing your business processes is a recipe for disaster and unsuccessful digital transformation. Number 8, change everything in one go. To make sure your program is successful, it's absolutely crucial to understand how much change can your business actually take at one time. That's why it's really important to work out a rollout strategy that takes into account the business disruption that all the changes will cause and plan for that. Because definitely absorbing too much change in one go where you're trying to roll out your ERP, your CRM, your HCM all in one go may cause quite a lot of disruption and ultimately will cause the whole success of your business transformation program. Number 9, make assumptions. Another very common reason for the digital transformations to fail is the lack of clarity and different parties making all sorts of assumptions. For example, it's really important to make sure that your technology vendors and your system integrators have a complete clarity about what your requirements are, because if it's all based on assumptions, then of course you're going to get the wrong output because the parties are just not clear of what they're actually building. Which is why we're also recommending not to make any assumptions about what you're actually expecting from the digital transformation and define the actual business impact metrics that you're hoping that this transformation will address for you. And again, making sure that you communicate all those metrics, your requirements to different consultants and system integrator will help you to make sure that everyone's on the same page and nobody's making assumptions. Number 10, define your business processes on the fly. Another very common reason for the digital transformation's failure is leaving your process redesign until the very late stage in the program. Inevitably, you will need to change your business processes if you're bringing on the new technology, and also it is an opportunity for you to look into your business and make sure that you've got the streamlined business processes. But quite often, business leaders would get convinced by the technology vendors that their business processes will get defined and redesigned as part of the technology implementation, which is a really risky approach because at that point, you will be under a lot of pressure to confirm all the requirements and make sure that the team is delivering the actual solution, which is why it's really important to make sure you don't define your business process on the fly and you actually have a whole work stream before the technology implementation part starts and you work out the whole target operating model, you redesign your processes, and only then you jump into the stage of actually implementing a new technology. Number 11, wrap up the program after the go live. The digital transformations are generally quite lengthy initiatives that would last a few years, and after spending all this money and going through this a few-year transformation program, I understand how many business leaders are very keen to wrap up the program, cut the budget, and kind of move on with their day-to-day life. But it's also important to understand that at this phase, your organization entering the stage where you need to do some more work to actually sustain the change. I have seen in my career where after the digital transformation, the employees would revert back to the old processes and the old ways of working, which is why it's really important to make sure that after the program you have set up the network of change champions, which will be your kind of a boots on the ground that will still continue championing the change, that you have got all sorts of support for the employees, answering their queries and make sure that if there's any resistance to change, that you've got some mitigations against that as well. And sometimes also depending on technology, you might not always get everything right at the first attempt. So for example, if you're implementing an e-commerce and you had certain metrics that you were expecting to hit after the transformation, it's very normal to have another few sprints after that where you roll out the system, you monitor your certain metrics, whether it's conversion or retention or upsale or anything like that, and you kind of fine-tune the system afterwards. So after the program, it's really important to make sure you sustain the change and you actually fine-tune the system to make sure that you start getting the benefits that you plan to get. Number 12, skimp on change management. Another very common reason for the failure of the digital transformation is the poor change management. So it's really important to make sure that the change management is not limited to just running a few training sessions, doing a bit of demo and sending the emails to all your employees announcing the launch, that it actually becomes a whole work stream where we understand how your employees were working before and how their day-to-day life changes after, and all that is being communicated, and the whole support network is set up for them as well. Only with that effort, you will make sure that your program is rolled out successfully. So advice number 12, definitely do not skimp on change management. Number 13, allow change requests to steer your program. Change requests are requests from the business stakeholders that usually come at the later stage, asking to change the defined solution. And sometimes having a long list of these change requests can even sabotage the whole program and result in additional time and additional budget. So that's why it's really important to make sure you have a proper governance that will help you triage and address these change requests and just really manage the expectations of all the business stakeholders. So advice number 13, do not allow the change requests to steer your program. Number 14, ignore feedback from the business. On the other side of the spectrum, not listening to the business can also lead the program to fail, especially if you're going through, let's say, the UAT stage where you roll out your system to the business and you're getting their feedback, and to make sure that you actually listen and you fine-tune the system to their needs is absolutely important. So advice number 14, do not ignore feedback from the business. Number 15, underestimate the total cost of ownership. Another reason why digital transformation sometimes costs a lot more than it was planned is not doing enough due diligence to actually understand how much is it going to cost to have this solution. And quite often it's down to not really having all the information to understand how many licenses you're going to need based on the user structure that's been configured for you, and also understanding the actual cost of maintaining the solution going forward as well. So it's really important to make sure you do all these checks up front and you fully understand how much it's going to cost to have this particular solution in this particular configuration with all these customizations to maintain going forward, so that you get your cost-benefit ratio right. So advice number 15, do not underestimate the total cost of ownership. Number 16, skimp on program management. To have a successful digital transformation program, it is absolutely crucial to have strong governance and strong program managers and project managers that will actually overlook the whole program, because you'll most definitely have a lot of different parts moving at the same time, and it's really important to have the whole picture and make sure that everything is being directed to deliver one cohesive solution that will serve the needs. So advice number 16, definitely do not skimp on program management. Number 17, underestimate data migration effort. Data migration is definitely one of the most common reasons why digital transformations fail and take a lot longer than expected, because quite often organizations encounter a lot of data quality issues, and again, making sure that you have the right resources there that will have the processes and the governance and approach and how to address those data quality issues is absolutely essential. So advice number 17, definitely do not underestimate the data migration effort and make sure that it's treated as almost like a separate project within your program. Number 18, do not plan for operational disruption. This is definitely one of those things that can cost business millions if not managed properly. Digital transformations will always cause some sort of business disruption, which will depend on how much change you're actually rolling out at once. That's why, to make sure you're prepared for that and you don't schedule your go live too close to some important dates for your business, is really important. It's also important to make sure that you have some sort of backup plan prepared as well, which again will help you to mitigate risks for any operational disruption. So advice number 18, definitely do plan for operational disruption and have some sort of contingency plan to help you mitigate against it. Number 19, downplay the external buy-in. Before, we talked about the importance of having all the senior leadership and your internal team on board before you start a digital transformation program. But it's also very important to have all your external partners on board as well, to making sure everyone's on the same page. Your system integrators understand your requirements and the metrics you're trying to achieve is absolutely crucial to bring everyone on board. And last but not least, number 20, give in to time pressures. In my career, I have seen quite a lot of cases where business leaders were under a lot of pressure to make decisions and make those decisions really fast. So that's why it's really important to make sure that you engage with different external stakeholders at the right time when your business is actually ready to move on to the next stage. So for example, if your internal business processes are not defined, you have not done the due diligence to work out your target operating model and you're now engaging with the technology vendor, they're definitely going to want you to do everything right here, right now, which then puts a lot of pressure on the business leaders to make some quick decisions and move on with the program, which sometimes can lead for certain stages to be rushed and then results in the poor quality of the final output. So advice number 20, definitely do not give in to time pressures and make sure you put the business first. And these are all the 20 ways of how to fail the digital transformation. I really hope you'll do completely the opposite, but here's the blitz, all 20. Number 1, downplay the internal buy-in. Number 2, start with technology. Number 3, cut corners. Number 4, buy the latest and greatest technology. Number 5, over-rely on consultants. Number 6, change your business to fit the off-the-shelf solution. Number 7, over-customize off-the-shelf solution. Number 8, change everything in one go. Number 9, make a lot of assumptions. Number 10, define your business processes on the fly. Number 11, wrap up the program after the go live. Number 12, skim on change management. Number 13, allow change requests to steer the program. Number 14, ignore feedback from the business. Number 15, underestimate the total cost of ownership. Number 16, skimp on program management. Number 17, underestimate data migration effort. Number 18, don't plan for operational disruption. Number 19, downplay the external buy-in. And number 20, give in to the time pressures. I hope you found all the 20 ways to fail a digital transformation very useful. I hope you'll do completely the opposite. If you need any support, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening and have a good day.